What's up? Welcome into today's episode of Pushing the Pile. We have a jam-packed show for you guys. We are talking 2028 flag football because we're getting word here soon from the owners whether or not they're going to let NFL players play. We're going to be building our own teams. We have some Bill Belichick. He's in the news. Surprise, surprise. Marvin Harrison Jr. showed up jacked to the offseason workouts. Looks like a different player entirely.
He's getting tested today.
Extension. Dude, right? I saw the picture of him. I thought it was Darius Robinson. I was like, that's Marvin Harris Jr. Are you kidding me? We're going through win totals, over-unders. We're going to pick some teams who are on the fringe, who have plus odds to make the playoffs. Going to pick who's going to make it, who's not going to make it. Then we're going to do some way too early award predictions. But Kyle, man, how you doing, buddy? What have you been up to lately?
I'm good, dude. Just hanging out. Yesterday, I went up to a town called Stuart, Florida, which is like one of these hidden gems. Obviously, there's all these towns you hear about. Yeah, there's all these towns you hear about that are coastal towns with waterways that are not necessarily in the ocean. Stuart, Florida, one of those ones that slept on. Went up there on the in-laws. They have a boat, and we were out there all day. Great day on the water. What a beautiful state we live in. And the great thing is during the week, there's nobody out there. And my father-in-law was like, if you come out here on a Saturday, there's 2,000 boats in this bay. But we didn't see anybody yesterday. It was great. What are you up to, man?
I still have not, unfortunately, been on a boat since I've been in Florida. Hoping to change that soon. But I've been
Let's get a boat day together.
Boat day? I'm 100% down. I need it before. But I will be gone here soon because obviously going up and getting married here next week. We've been doing a lot of that wedding prep, but I've been going through 2026 prospects. I'm starting at quarterback, and everyone said this draft season, like this spring, not everyone, but I saw a lot of people saying just wait till next year's class. Now, obviously, this class was weak, but I haven't seen next year's class be like a group that's got a lot of top of the class guys just yet. I'll just warn you, the guys who I think the guy I feel the best about is obviously Arch Manning. He's only going to be a junior though. His Eli Manning was a 5-year guy at Ole Miss. Peyton Manning was a 4-year guy at Tennessee. Would not surprise me given the NIL landscape if Arch Manning stays 2 more years at Texas and doesn't even come out. So if he's not in it, the one I feel best about is Garrett Nussmeier from LSU. From what I've seen, I just think he'll be good. He may not be an elite prospect, but I feel good about him being a first-round type of prospect. After that, you're banking on a lot of development. Now, there's guys who can develop. Drew Aller's got big tools from Penn State.
Love Drew Aller.
Lenora Seller has monster tools from South Carolina, but he's only 19 years old. I doubt that guy comes out either. Fernando Mendoza, the transfer from Cal to Indiana, has some interesting tools. Nico Iamaleava has big tools, but none of these guys are quite polished products yet. So it wouldn't surprise me if we're talking about hyping this class up and then all those guys end up coming back to school or don't make the leaps that we're talking about. So I'm not so certain, just from my initial watching of this class, that we 100% have something better. Now, guys come out of nowhere always, but it's just, if you were thinking this year was going to be much better, it's definitely not in the realm of what we saw in 2024 just yet. I would not put it close to that. But let's get back to some more fake football. Flag football, 2028. They're obviously, the NFL is voting to approve whether NFL players can participate. The idea is 1 per team can go play for this, but we thought we'd build our own squads.
I think it's a fun exercise, Mike. I think it is. And you can get creative with it too. Flag football, so much different than real football. Obviously, you can see the rules here. Each roster can include only 1 player from the same NFL team. Each team is composed of 10 players. I'm assuming 5 and 5. Those teams will square off in a 5-on-5 format. And there will be men's and women's teams. And Harry, our producer, I was asking him, I was like, can we do a co-ed team, or are we just going all guys, all gals for this thing? And I think that's the way we're going to do it, guys and gals. I know. I
feel like you have to include, though. You have to include guys like Travis Hunter. You have to include guys like Derek Stingley, just in case. Because if there's only 10 players and it's 5-on-5, yeah, obviously you're going to separate up into 5 offense, 5 defense. But in case you get an injury or in case someone can't go or whatever, you need a guy who's going to be able to play both ways. So I think those two at minimum are going to be on it, but we're only picking our offensive teams here today.
Offensive teams. And if you'd like, I can get this thing started. Obviously I sent out a tweet yesterday that said, clearly people want Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, you name it, those top Joe Burrow at the quarterback position. But I'm honest to goodness when I say that Kyler Murray is going to be my quarterback.
It's a different game. It's a different game.
I watched the guy, Daryl, the quarterback for the Olympics. Doucette. And his nickname is Deuce.
Is it Hoosh or whatever?
Something. I don't want to say too much. I don't get in trouble. But
if we combine those,
his style of play, like. There's a lot of lowering of the pad level. There's getting on the ground. There's like the little spin slide that Michael Vick used to do. I think that the guy who's tailor-made for that position in this game of flag football is Kyler Murray. And I brought this up on Twitter. You remember Odd Job from GoldenEye? So GoldenEye, was the golden age of first-person shooters. It was really the first one. And when, 3 of your buddies would come over and you play 4 split-screen multiplayer, there was always one character that nobody was allowed to pick because it was unfair. That was Odd Job. Odd Job stood about 3'7", and he was a very small hitbox, very small target area.
Like trying to hit Aaron Donald.
It was unfair. Yeah, it was like blocking Aaron Donald. Well, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put him at the quarterback position. Bijan Robinson, one of the most talented athletes in the National Football League. Run, block, catch. I'm sure he could pass too. He's going to be at the running back position. A lot of fun with that backfield. And then obviously we're projecting down the road here in a couple years. It's not for this year. And I think Kyler Murray will still be quick and will still have the arm talent. Bijan will be in the prime of his career, in my opinion. And then you look at BTJ, and that's a guy who is dominant, one of the biggest freaks in the NFL. Malik Neighbors, a guy who possesses explosive ability. And then I'm going to put Brock Bowers out there at the receiver position as well. He does so much well. And I think he's just a really heady player. Will be a great add to any football team. That's my team. I'm interested to hear yours, Mike.
Okay, so I thought about this a little, and I just think Jaden Daniels will still be in the prime of his career. Lamar will probably be slowing down. Kyler will probably be slowing down. Josh Allen probably slowing down in 3 years, just in terms of their rushing ability. But Jaden is going to be like 27. He'll be fine. He's still going to be able to make a lot of guys miss. So I want him at the quarterback position. I want Devon Chain. Again, it's a different game. A lot of things that make good NFL running backs don't necessarily matter in flag football. But Devon Chain has what matters in flag football. He can catch. Guy can catch like a wide receiver. I mean, he's been one of the best receiving backs in the NFL over the course of his career. He has 4.32 speed. And then obviously he's shifty. Like he has all that you kind of want at that position to be an effective flag football player. Receiving core, Malik Neighbors is like just an obvious one. If you're not taking Malik Neighbors for this, you just haven't watched the guy. He's just a different caliber of explosive, dynamic athlete. I do worry, Pete, I did a segment with Pete yesterday, Pete Prisco on CBS, and he mentioned Tyreek Hill's got to be on there. And I was like, dude, Tyreek's going to be 34 then. How many 34-year-old wide receivers still got that juice? I thought about Jalen Waddle, and I'm like, he's going to be 29. How many 29-year-olds still got that? Like, just guys slowed down at that point in time. So those guys I did not include, but they're close. I went Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State right now.
I love that pick.
It will be after his rookie season. If you watched him as a true freshman, it was the best true freshman tape I've ever seen. I even debated throwing in Ryan Williams, the Alabama wide receiver, given what we saw from him. If you remember that play he had at the end of the Georgia game, the guy, those two are
up in the air, turned around backwards. Is that the one on the right sideline?
Yes. He's even, his game probably even translates better to flag football in terms of just the shiftiness, just the can't touch him in a phone booth type of ability. But Jeremiah Smith's like too good to, you don't always have to break tackles. You could just get open down the football field sometimes and throw up some jump balls. So especially when you got Jaden Daniels as your quarterback. And then Zay Flowers, still only 24 right now, one of the shiftiest. I debated between him and Garrett Wilson. I think you can't go wrong with either. They're both in the mold that works in flag football, but just give me Zay Flowers at this point. So that's my team.
Another fun little experiment that we were doing. I was texting with Harry this morning. I was like, let's do a women's team. And, beautiful graphics there for the men's team. But I'm going to go with women, and I'm going to go with women that aren't necessarily – obviously, there's a flag football team for all these countries already. Mexico's quarterback is incredible. She's like the most famous flag football player in the world. And I want to make sure Mexican flag football women's quarterback. And I want to give her props because I've read about her. Diana Flores Arenas. Okay. She is the quarterback and the captain of the Mexican football team. I wish we could take her because she's obviously great. But we have the next best thing, and that's Caitlin Clark. I'm going to put her at the quarterback. I just feel like her football IQ would be off the charts. Her ability to hit shots from range, her ability to create, distribute the football will be awesome. And you can see her there doing the no look. She's looking right, throwing left. A little Stafford-ish right there.
I feel like there is also, if you've seen Joe Burrow shoot hoops, if you've seen CJ Stroud shoot, I feel like there's a crossover between how accurately you can throw a football and how accurately you can shoot. Like I feel like there's similar, not like obviously not similar movements.
You should see Mahomes play basketball. I believe what you're talking about. Okay, That's real. And also basketball players are fantastic with an understanding of spacing. Okay, so there's this thing called My Player on NBA 2K, and I know you're not a gamer, but My Player means I'm going to create Kyle Long, the power forward. My whole career, I'm only going to control my guy. You have to focus on spacing a lot in transition, which alleys to be in to allow the ball handler to have space. When you set screens and you try to get open or you're running your offense, spacing is big. Caitlin Clark probably has an elite understanding of spacing. Okay. At the running back position, USA Rugby superstar Alona Mayer. She is an absolute beast, and we would want her on our football team. Okay. Now, I debated putting Angel Reese at the running back position, but I don't know about having Caitlin and Angel next to each other.
They can't be on the same team
every play, although, man, oh, man, that's must-see TV. I've got Sha'Carri Richardson, the sprinter, at receiver because you need somebody to take the top off the defense, and I think that she definitely possesses those traits. Angel Reese is going to be a receiver. I'm thinking like a Brandon Marshall type, okay? Throw her the football at the line of scrimmage and watch people just get shooken off of her because she's a monster. I love watching her play basketball. People like to give Angel Reese a lot of crap, and I don't get it. I think that I know for a fact that I would want to be on a team with Angel Reese because she gets boards, she's getting up shots, and I know a lot of them don't fall, but like you go get your own rebound before you tell me what to do with my shot, okay? Like Angel Reese. Coco Gauff. These tennis players are, in my opinion, some of the best athletes on the planet. And you want to talk about mental toughness. They're playing a game by themselves, okay? It's like the total man in the arena sport is tennis. But you give her teammates, and I feel like she gets even better. Put her at receiver, her ability to move, her stamina, her toughness, and I just think her popularity is great. And also, tennis, men's and women's tennis is the only sport in the research that I've done that makes the same as the men. So, and I'm talking money, okay? So Coco Gauff is paid. So I just think about team dinners. Coco Gauff's going to be, setting her card in. These gals are going to eat great. They're going to have the best trainers, all that kind of stuff. Coco Gauff is somebody you want on your team. But Caitlin Clark's the headliner, and keeping Angel Reese out of the backfield and put her out wide is where I want to put Angel Reese.
See, I have no clue how this would work, but what I do know is that if that happened, that every daytime sports talk show would have a literal meltdown. It would be, what's that one? The Facility would be
Emmanuel Acho
screaming. Ryan Clark's podcast would be the most downloaded podcast in America. The clips that would come out on social media from that, just primo. So hopefully it does happen because of that. All right. We're going to take a quick break. After that, we got some more headlines to get to here in our first off the ball segment. Belichick, has anyone torched their legacy more than him? We'll discuss right after this. So Bill Belichick, as I said before, in the headlines again, for all the right reasons. Nothing to do with football yet again. This time, two different things in the past 2 days. One is he might be engaged to new girlfriend, I guess now fiance, Jordan Hudson, the mid-20s starlet, star of all their offseason program there in North Carolina. And also a story comes out that she fought his ex-girlfriend, the one before this, Linda Holiday, at a holiday party last year, a Christmas party last year in Nantucket. Just a year ago, Bill Belichick had her living in one of his houses. Now they're broken up, and maybe he's engaged to this new girl, Jordan Hudson, who is just, by all accounts, terrifying. Just terrifying.
You like to give people the benefit of the doubt, but at a certain point in time, when the news cycle happens week in, week out, the media firestorm that, pro athletes, coaches, celebrities are a part of, when it's the same people in the news every week, like one time I'm going to be like, oh, this is just a novelty item, something that's, fresh. Bill Belichick is, dating what? And he's a legend. But at the end of the day, this is, I have extreme fatigue on this topic. Okay. I have extreme fatigue on the topic. And usually we could talk Belichick all day, but this, I don't even, are these substantiated claims? Like, do we know that he's engaged? Do we know that there was a fight? I know it was Nantucket last year, the holidays.
The fight has documentation behind it.
The holidays, people fight. I mean, even if you're family, sometimes at the holidays, it gets a little, you can ask my mom and dad. Sometimes when all the boys get together, we fight, even if we love each other. But I would imagine that these two ladies are not very tight.
You know what this is? And it's unfortunate because, like I said, since obviously Tom Brady left, Bill Belichick's sort of legacy and what he'll be remembered for has kind of been torched harder than I can remember any other coach in NFL history. Just like he has done everything to just not be remembered for the right reasons, right? Not be remembered for his greatness on the football field. But it's him basically, with what he built up in New England and now the staff he's brought to him in North Carolina, which is, again, all the same people. He surrounded himself with so many yes men that everyone's terrified to tell him, like, what the hell are you doing, Bill? Well, like, you're a laughing stock in the media right now. You are not garnering the level of respect that someone at your sort of pinnacle of the coaching profession should garner anymore. And it's because it looks like just unfortunately looks like a clown at this point. What is he doing?
You were mentioning that he might be somebody that tarnishes legacy more than anybody else in sport, which led me to kind of rack my brain about people across sports, all athletes that have done that. I think about
terrible, but
Simpson. There's a few names we could name here from the NFL, but I'm thinking about guys like Barry Bonds, who's not going to be in the Hall of Fame, who was, quite literally the best baseball player that any of us have ever watched. Pete Rose, a guy that we all have an insane amount of respect for, but there's still that the red flags involved there. Man, oh man, it's just, you got to think that Bill Belichick was neck deep in football for so long. He was up to his eyeballs in football. He got a little bit of free time, obviously stepped away from the game. And, my older brother got to play for Bill. We have a ton of respect for Coach Belichick. He is the GOAT. But nobody is immune to either too much free time. Like when we get free time, it's never good, right? I mean, so God, I hope that he is able to salvage the respect that he accrued over decades and decades and decades of massive success, because we should look at a guy like Bill Belichick and say, God, he is the best and all that stuff. But distractions happen. And it's funny because the MO is always less distractions in New England. That was the Patriot way, right? Like less is more at the podium. Yes. We keep things in-house, blah, 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 blah. Seemingly none of this stuff is in-house. A lot of it is a distraction. He's a new coach at UNC. The players are this is probably the talk of the town in Chapel Hill because it's on most of the social media sites I frequent. You have to imagine it's not a good thing for the university. I'm interested to see how this season shakes out for Coach Belichick because I heard him talk last week and he was like, look, this isn't football stuff at all. And I look forward to getting in to training camp and all this stuff. And I believe that when it's time for them to report back and he gets the whistle back around his neck, we're going to be like, oh, it's just Bill. Like what we're doing is we're blowing up something that first and foremost, I never feel comfortable talking about wives, girlfriends, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, understandable.
And especially when it's dude, because, I don't know if there's going to be a guy outside my door after this episode that could have me whacked. One of the Bill Belichick hitmen.
He's got eyes everywhere. But I
hope that UNC has a good season. I hope that Bill Belichick proves to be still the guy in the coaching world. And
that will obviously that's what it comes down to. That will determine
have less to say.
Yes, that will determine because if that all goes swimmingly, if they win 10 games, if he turns the program around, this gets swept under the rug. But if they go 3-9, if they don't look good, if it kind of continues to be this shit show, he'll only have himself to blame, unfortunately, for all that.
My problem is I hear the name all the time, Jordan Hudson. I don't click the articles and I don't read them because it's almost like one of those when you go to sleep and you have one of those dreams that feels real, but you're like, this can't be real. Like, did my house burn down? Did this happen? I don't want to believe that Bill Belichick has been infiltrated by a parasite of sorts.
That was the first word that came to my head. It was like he has been overtaken. His body has been overtaken by a parasite.
I watched a grasshopper get submerged in water the other day, and the parasite comes out. And
put him in a bath.
Maybe we should give him a big old bath.
Oh my God!
If he's happy, I'll end with this. If Bill's happy, I'm happy for Bill. That's what I got.
Very sweet of you. Very sweet of you. All right, next up in the first off the ball, Marvin Harrison Jr. showed up at the podium looking, I'll be honest, I was scrolling the timeline. I saw this picture. And I
cover his face with your thumb. That's Myles Garrett. No?
I saw the dreads and I was like, damn, Darius Robinson looks good. Like Darius Robinson, the first rounder from last year, has similar hairstyle. I was just like, damn, he's like, that's wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. He is said he played at 209 last year, added a ton of muscle this offseason. Said by accident, kind of just happened naturally. He's been eating a lot better than he did at Ohio State.
Grown man strength. It happens in like your rookie year, second year. That's when you really become a man.
Speak to that a little bit because I've seen certain guys come to mind like a Max Crosby who came in the league skinny, like a David Bakhtiari who came in the league skinny from Colorado, where it's like play strength concerns, but then like by coming out of college, but then by year 3, you're like, they're actually some of the strongest dudes out here. So how much can you actually put on an NFL weight room?
Well, there's functional strength, obviously, and then there's guys that look like Hercules and play like a wet blanket,
like Ashton.
So
Hall.
There's Ashton Hall, the guy who's running on it. The guy with the Saratoga Springs water. When I came in the league, most of my training was combine based. So like they wanted me to run a 40. They wanted me to run a 5.10.5. They wanted me to broad jump, all this stuff. And not to say that stuff isn't conducive to having success athletically, but when you get into the NFL and it's iron versus iron, you figure out what you need to improve on. So like for me, I didn't do enough squatting in college. And when I got to the NFL, Mike Clark was my strength coach. And Mike Clark was big on heavy squats. We were moving heavy stuff. The boost I got from year 1 to year 2 and then to year 3 was unbelievable. And I was bald at 21. It wasn't like I didn't go through puberty or anything, but I had a second wind of strength and growth, and that's when I really became grown man strong. And you mentioned a guy like Max Crosby. He's figured out what works for him, and he's figured out how to continue to strengthen his armor and sharpen his weapons. For a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., I just think that when you are around a bunch of guys that are like yourself, in terms of being specimens physically, and that's what it is when you're in the locker room. There's 52 other guys that pretty much got what you got. You find a way to get even stronger. And it's just, by osmosis. You're at the squat rack with 3 other O linemen in the NFL. Your squat numbers are going to go up because you got that silent competition, that silent communication. And for him, I think it's just unbelievable. Obviously, the genetics, I'm a huge fan of genetics, and I think that that's a very real thing. And
I can see why you would be.
He's got that. But if you couple it with hard work and nutrition, then special things happen. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is kind of figuring out, and his body is ready to take that next step. I'm excited to watch him go. He looks unbelievable.
I do think with the type of wide receiver he is, this is what he has to lean into or should lean into, right? I mean, he had 38 contested catch opportunities last year. That was top 5 in the NFL. He is going to have to, with the type of wide receiver he is going to have to make a lot of plays at the catch point. He is going to have to physically dominate cornerbacks a lot. And when you are only 209 pounds, that's difficult because the cornerbacks you're going against are like 200 pounds. And they're not 6'4". They're 5'11". They're 6 foot. Yep. They're a more dense 200. They're denser than you are. So I do think leaning into that is probably better, especially when Budda Baker said his quote was, "He's still skinny." That Marvin Harrison Jr. still,
which is a huge compliment.
Which is
because it's like the guy's a freak show. He's got big old arms, but he's still skinny, which, in football terminology, as you would know, it's like he has a lot of room to grow. Like if you asked an O lineman, how much do you weigh? And they say 315, you go, oh my gosh, you look 285. That's a compliment. That's a huge compliment. So for Budda Baker to say that speaks volumes.
All right, let's get to some win total over-unders. We teased them on the offseason grades, but now we want to put our stamp on it. We're both going to give our 5 favorite over-unders. I didn't go all overs, but I didn't want to crush anyone too hard, so I only did 1 under. But we'll go back and forth. We'll each pick one.
Surprise, surprise, which under you picked, you freaking hater, dude.
I knew you'd love that one, but you go ahead. You break it off for us, Kyle.
Okay, so obviously I love the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton is a great coach. The culture's awesome. Bo Nix is going to take a big step in year 2. The offensive line is a bunch of stud ducks in Denver. Give me the over 9.5 for the Broncos. Second team I'm going to have on the list, the Houston Texans. Okay, CJ Stroud. What goes up must come down. What comes down must bounce back up. That's CJ Stroud in this offense. Health concerns all year last year, protection issues. They got Laramie Tunsil out. They were able to spread some of that wealth along the offensive line. But I think it all comes down to CJ Stroud and those receivers. If they're able to stay healthy, we know the defensive side of the ball is going to be coming like gangbusters. I love the rushers. I love the rushers in Houston. It's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to score points with CJ. They're going to get after quarterbacks. The third group, Buccaneers, over 9.5. If it ain't double digits for Tampa Bay, it ain't right, in my opinion. So give them the over. I know they lost Liam Cohen, but they've done this dog and pony show before with new coordinators, new coaches. Give me the Bears at number 4, over 8.5 wins. I just think that it's a good starting point for the Bears. And then the Cowboys. I put the Cowboys on this list. I did the picks last week on HQ, and I had them going like 5-12. I have retracted that. I've got them going, let's call it, what is it, 8-9?
Mm-hmm.
8-9 for the Cowboys, which puts them over 7.5. What say you, Mike?
We have some overlap. 2 big ones. My favorite one, and I'll keep banging this, and I can't believe it's plus odds right now. Buccaneers 9.5. Buccaneers are talent-wise, in my opinion, top 5 football team in the NFL. Just in terms of the entire roster, what they have, holes, just factoring it all in. It is worrisome not having Liam Cohen, but like they did it with Dave Canales too. They had a good offense. So I'm not worried. Over 9.5, my favorite bet. And then the Broncos over 9.5 is probably my second favorite. Now, my second favorite is Pats over 8.5. I think this Pats team is due for a massive turnaround. What I saw from Drake May year 1, going into year 2 should be leap into that, elite quarterback or just franchise quarterback at minimum status. If that's the case, with how easy their schedule is, with how good their defense should be, over 8.5 feels like my favorite bet. Like I said, Broncos over 9.5, Bucks over 9.5. And then I also love Giants over 5.5. Yes, it's going to be tough sledding. There are no
going to be a bunch of bar fights for the New York Giants. That's what it's going to be.
Teams don't bottom out with elite defensive lines.
Yep.
They just don't. Because you know why? Elite. Are you flossing mid-show?
Yeah.
I love it.
I had some steak from yesterday this morning for breakfast. By the way, not a good way to start the day. Steak and eggs is a great option, from a taste standpoint.
But you feel like
oh boy, it's with you all day, man. It's with you all day.
I love it. But back to the Giants. You don't bottom out with elite defensive lines. It's difficult to, because elite defensive lines show up every single week. There's no, our defensive line had kind of a day off. When you have Dexter Lawrence, when you have Abdul Carter, when you have Brian Burns, when you have Kayvon Thibodeau, and when you have Darius Alexander, those guys will show up week in and week out. So I think that's a team that, and then it can't be understated that Daniel Jones was freaking awful last year. Tommy DeVito was playing for them last year. Like you can think as little as you want about Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston at this point in time.
It's a big upgrade.
It's still a massive upgrade. And they have talent at receiver, man. Malik Neighbors,
Jackson Dart,
Theo Johnson.
I'm just going to whisper Jackson Dart.
And then my last one, the under I like. I actually like a couple unders. I like the Eagles under 11.5. I like the Chiefs under 11.5. Your Super Bowl teams from last year, it's tough when you play that schedule. Their divisions have all started
rising too.
Rising closer. And if the tush-push gets banned,
if the tush-push gets banned, then I'm putting Saquon for MVP, because you got to think about all the skewed numbers that resulted because of their tush-pushes.
Because Saquon would have had
I was explaining to Kate
touchdowns
in the kitchen this morning that I was on HQ last week, and our host, I'm not going to name the host, they were like, whoa, Derrick Henry had more touchdowns than Saquon Barkley. And I'm like, well, you ever seen the tush-push? Okay, Saquon Barkley could get 99 yards, and they're going to let Jalen run it in at the 1 yard line. So think about those numbers.
So Jalen Hurts had 14 rushing touchdowns last year. 14. Saquon had obviously 13 himself.
Yeah.
But just think of half of those. And
20. Let's just say 20.
Yeah. He has double-digit touchdowns last year if the tush-push gets banned. So
Josh Dooley is killing you in the chat. He said, I lost total respect for you. No way the Chiefs go under. They haven't had under 11.5 ever with Mahomes. ... That's a terrible idea.
Well, we're going under 11.5. And we're going to pick some make or miss playoffs and some NFL award predictions right after the break.
I know they know who I am. Jaden Shaw faces her former club. North Carolina battles San Diego in an NWSL showdown. Sunday on CBS Sports Network. They know me.
They went under 11.5 2 years ago also. I was like,
well, in Josh Dooley's universe, they did not.
All right.
Also, so these picks, these over-unders, it's all regular season.
Correct. Yes. Now, it does, obviously, the 17th game, kind of, it's still, my brain's still adjusting to what that is, right? Having an extra game, what the over-under is, but yes, 17 games. All right. Make or miss the playoffs. We're going to go rapid fire here. We went through last week and we picked every single game of the season. Who was going to win? Quite an exercise if you've never done it. We're going to go through and just rapid fire, go through the teams that are borderline playoff teams right now, I'll say, and say, are they going to make it? Are they going to miss it? We're starting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're plus 150 right now. Make or miss? Well, the quarterback is technically Mason Rudolph.
Well, miss.
If it's Aaron Rodgers,
Make.
Ooh,
I just really want to see him get off the couch, man.
I know. Well, he can get off the couch, but at 41 years old with an Achilles,
can he get off the ground?
Last year.
He can get off the couch. Can he get off the ground?
So I'm going to go miss. All right, Seahawks plus 170.
Miss. They downgraded.
I just don't see Sam Darnold replicating the success he had in Minnesota.
Can't do it. Outside, different OC, no Justin Jefferson.
I do love their defense.
Weather. Yeah, I love the defense.
I wanted to. If they would have just if they would have kept Geno Smith and just kind of ran it back, kept this and just up with the upgrades they had in this roster, I would have said make. But I think it's such a big downgrade going from Geno Smith to Sam Darnold that I don't think they do. And trading away DK Metcalf, I don't think the receiving core is going to have the same teeth. They
got a bunch of the same type of guys there.
Yes.
So I always talk about the receiver position. When you're looking at a receiver room, you want it to look like a basketball team. You've got, guys who can do a number of different things, like when I watch, let's just use the Atlanta Falcons, for example. I was watching one of their games last week. It was Eagles-Falcons. Drake London is a certain type of receiver. Darnell Mooney is a certain type of receiver. Bijan gives you that action out of the backfield. You look at a team like the Eagles, and they've got a number of different phenotypes, as it were, and that breeds success. If you've got a bunch of guys that are kind of doing the same thing, you can probably say it better than I can, but it's not the same juice.
Yes. And especially just
Hey, Zach, I have watched Geno the past 2 years. I cover the National Football League for a living. Me and Mike talk about it often. I would say this: good luck to you this season. I hope that your defense plays lights out and the 85 Bears run out of the tunnel, because you're going to need that if you want to make the playoffs this year. Sorry for partying. Go watch Geno Smith this year in 12 personnel with Chip Kelly as his quarterback, and come back to the podcast and talk to me then, because I have somewhat of an understanding of what Chip likes to do offensively. I know what happens when you've got a quarterback with arm talent and experience and confidence. Geno Smith has all of those things. And the unknown in this scenario is Sam Darnold outside of an Sam Darnold outside without Kevin O'Connell, without Justin Jefferson, without a good offensive line.
Yeah.
Let's chat week 5.
I'm on the exact same page. I get why, as a Seahawks fan, you'd be optimistic. And again, I'm not going to say it can't work out at all. I love Clint Kubiak as an OC. I think he will improve how that offense looks at minimum. But
what does Clint Kubiak like to do, Mike?
Play action.
He likes to go play action downtown Julie Brown. Okay. Yeah. You may have the runway to get it there, but you don't have the vehicles to get a mile down the road to make you pay for these play actions. I got a lot of questions about them.
Arizona Cardinals plus 140. Make or miss?
Which one was that? The Cardinals? They're going to make. They're going to make.
Ooh.
They're going to make the playoffs.
I went miss. I hope they make it, though. I'm a Cardinals buyer, but I went miss when I went through and picked every game. Bengals plus 155.
Make.
Yeah, I went make as well. Can't believe they're plus 155.
It would be they should just shut down football if the Bengals don't make the playoffs this year. They should just end it. They should just, end football, because we deserve Joe Burrow.
Falcons plus 150.
It's going to be really tough. We're banking on Michael Penix staying healthy for the entirety of the season. I do love the staff down there. I like the talent on the offensive side of the ball, but I'm going to go miss.
I went miss as well. I just don't think their line of scrimmages are quite good enough at this point in time. Miami Dolphins plus 155.
They're out.
Yeah, I think it could go. I don't think it's going to be complete bottom out for Miami, but there's a potential for it. And I just don't see the upside with how just bad their defense is. Defense doesn't have talent, unfortunately, come through the door. All right, San Francisco 49ers minus 180.
If Christian McCaffrey stays healthy for the entirety of the season, I'm going to say yes.
I think they better make the playoffs. If they just paid Brock Purdy what they paid him and don't make the playoffs again, they could be in for a long 4 years because it's not the core guys, the important guys there aren't getting any younger. Indianapolis Colts plus 170.
Oh, this could be a lot of fun. This could be a lot of fun, but I'm going to say no. I'm going to say they don't. But I also think that this could be one of those teams that's like can't miss television every week.
It really, they have, I think, a very high ceiling. This team could win 13 games. Like they could take over the Texans very easily from this division. Their defense is good enough at this point in time. They added enough to that secondary. I think Latu is due for a year 2 breakout. It's just Anthony Richardson. It's just, can he just hit the layups? Just hit the layups.
We saw him with some rec specs on, throwing some balls in basketball shorts the other day. He looked pretty good. Couple on target throws, but they don't put in the bad ones on social media.
You don't see a lot of social media teams highlighting your quarterback overthrowing a flat route. That just doesn't make the headlines usually, unfortunately. But the Colts, I picked them to not make it, but at plus 170, I love that bet. I love having them make the playoffs outright. I think it's a great coaching staff. I think if anyone can hold it together and get this team in the playoffs, it's Shane Steichen. So I like the bet, but I did not actually have them making it. I Patriots at plus 155.
This is one that I don't think the Patriots are going to get in, but I will bet the Patriots to get in so I can celebrate it at the end of the year and act like I saw it coming the entire way. I always keep a couple coins in the piggy bank for bets like this. This is what I'm going to do. I love Vrabel. I love the culture that Mike Vrabel instills. He's got tough players. He's really smart in terms of the rules of the game, and that wins and loses you some games. Just go ask Kyle Shanahan.
I had them making the playoffs. I had them getting 10 wins. I think it's a quick turnaround for Mike Vrabel. Cowboys plus 200.
No.
I'm right there with you. I don't think it happens. Too tough of sledding.
It's less about them and more about who they're in the neighborhood with.
Yeah, exactly. Packers minus 125.
I got them making it.
I do too. I'm sneaking in. I don't think they win the division, but I think they get a wild card. Vikings at plus 120.
Too much unknown. I'm going to go no.
I have them doing it. I think if Kevin O'Connell can get Sam Darnold to play the way he did, he can get J.J. McCarthy to play at least sound football. And their defense is just so good. The defense should be even – I worry about secondary, but it's like it's Brian Flores. When has he ever had the secondary be an issue? I just feel like he's going to make it work. And their defensive line's better than ever. It's one of the best in the NFL. Yeah, I'm going to buy the Minnesota Vikings to make it.
In World War II, I think it was World War II, we were doing a lot of diversion tactics, because they had these recon planes from the Axis powers had these recon planes that would fly over and they would report back on the troops on the ground, number of tents, number of tanks. Well, what we did to fool them? We did a bunch of inflatable tanks and inflatable buildings. And they were like, whoa, there's 50,000, troops over here. This is going to be the Brian Flores deal. He doesn't necessarily – we don't need real tanks. Just hit him with some inflatable tanks. Brian Flores' group will be all right.
King of the analogy. That was perfect. That was spot on. Hopefully he's got more inflatable tanks walking through that.
What I'm saying?
Room. All right, let's predict some awards. Way too early on this. We'll probably get some better predictions preseason. But early thoughts on the major awards. Comeback player of the year.
Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence got a new sheriff in town at the head coach spot. He's had some rough goes at it as of late, but we love BTJ. I think Travis Hunter will be a guy that can show up and help out, obviously, with this offense. I think it could be time for a change in Jacksonville. And obviously, the catalyst for that will be Trevor Lawrence having a great year.
I'm going to go with Max Crosby. Fresh off an extension, obviously injured last year towards the end. Comes back, 15 or so sacks. They'll finally have some leads. You'll finally be able to pin his ears back at times. That obviously helps as a pass rusher. And I think he wins comeback player of the year. Offensive rookie of the year.
Colston Loveland, tight end, Chicago Bears.
Aren't there a lot of mouths to feed there? A little too many mouths to feed?
Big old mouth there. on Colston. Okay. I think he's wearing 84. All the 84s I've ever seen, they're pretty damn good at football. Okay. Throw him the football.
If Brock Bowers could not win after the season he had last year,
their team wasn't good.
Yeah.
If the Bears make the playoff, if we'll get to the coach of the year and all this stuff, if it's a couple Bears up there at the NFL honors, we'll be talking about Colston Loveland.
I'm going to go with Ashton Genty. Chalky, yes, but like good O-line.
Yeah.
Great offense coordinator for scheming up the running game and just absurdly talented football player. So he's going to put up some numbers. Defensive rookie of the year.
You take this one away. We both got the same guy.
Abdul Carter. He was the best defensive player. It's like when, it was like 2 years ago with Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, where it's just like, they're just so much better than the other guys in the class. Defense that, like, if you're going to look elsewhere for the rookie of the year, I think you're mistaken. That's how I feel about Abdul Carter. He's just that good. And he's in a spot where he's not going to get doubled. He's going to get opportunities. Now, maybe they won't play with a lot of leads, but like he's going to have quarterbacks pushed into his face routinely from his line mates there. So yeah, Abdul Carter, D-Roy.
He gives me nightmares just watching, you go watch his highlight tapes, you go watch anything on this guy. It's just, as an offensive lineman, it just gives me real anxiety that there are going to be human beings responsible for blocking him one-on-one next year. And, he's young, he's a rookie, he's going to have juice, and boy, oh boy, does he have skill.
All right. Offensive player of the year.
Offensive player of the year. I'm going to go with Jamar Chase, because if the Bengals do make the playoffs, if they do make a run, it's going to be on the backs of the three horsemen there in Cincinnati. Jamar Chase, give me OPOY.
Yeah, I think he deserves one too, right? Like I don't want to say robbed. Obviously, Saquon Barkley was deserving of OPOY last year, but he had a season that you almost, if he doesn't match that, but still it's a very good season, still is like the best receiving season in the NFL, you're going to want to give it to him just because that guy deserves one with the level of football he's playing right now. I'm going to go a little different. I'm going to go with Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's going to be put in favorable spots by Liam Cohen. I think he can't put a number on that. Now, obviously, he has more of a secondary option this year in Travis Hunter, but I only think that's going to help him in the long run in terms of statistically, and what he did as a rookie, just what he showed was high end talent. So I think there's a very real shot. He's a 1,700 yard wide receiver this season.
Yeah, his volume may not be as much as you would like this year, but he will have more explosives because of the coverage that is dictated by having a guy like Travis Hunter opposite him. And this lends itself to Trevor Lawrence being the comeback player of the year. I see that, the writing's on the wall for you, Mike.
Yep. Defensive player of the year.
This could be a dark horse. I'm not really sure. I didn't check the lines on this, but Jalen Carter is as dominant a defensive player as there is in the National Football League, and I think he could be DPOY.
Yeah, I think year 3 for him is kind of, it's time. Like it's probably when he establishes himself as like the clear cut, hopefully, best defensive tackle in the NFL. But Chris Jones obviously still in that mix, and Dexter Lawrence is still in that mix, healthy. I'm going to go Dexter Lawrence for defensive player of the year. I think I think that Giants defensive line, I am buying this Giants team heavily. I think there's just too much talent along the defensive line that there's going to be a lot of sacks for this Giants defense. And if Lawrence picks up double digits, 12 or so, I think you'll finally get the respect that he deserves as the unquestioned best nose tackle in the NFL. Coach of the year.
Okay, so my coach of the year is going to be Ben Johnson. And I was there when Matt Nagy took the job in Chicago on a middling franchise and got us to the wild card game. And people acted like we landed on the moon. He won the award. Obviously, a ton of guys went to the Pro Bowl. That's what happens when you're a big-time media market like Chicago. If the Bears do have a turnaround, I'm not saying the 1 seed. I'm talking about if they get themselves into the dance, Ben Johnson's going to win the coach of the year. It's going to happen. I've seen it happen before, and I think that this team is primed to make even more of a splash offensively than we did with Matt Nagy.
I cannot
What's yours?
I cannot say. I do think they are going to be a lot better this year. It's just
Josh Dooley says Mike Vrabel Coach of the Year. I could totally see that.
The only thing stopping me from Mike Vrabel Coach of the Year was he's won it before. And I don't know if, voter fatigue sort of thing. Giving
on a new team, though, you can totally see that.
Yes. I think he's going to be in the mix. But I went Todd Bowles because, again, I think the Bucs line at only 9.5. So the expectations are not that they're going to be a great team. I think there's a real shot they get the 1 seed in the NFC just because their schedule, their division, how good that team is. Maybe I'm pumping their gas too much. But if they get the 1 seed with the expectation being 9.5 wins, I think a lot of people will be like, Todd Bowles, Coach of the Year. Now, realistically, I think it's more Jason Light, GM of the Year. I think he's done an unbelievable job of rebuilding since their Super Bowl win. But obviously, coaches sometimes get the runoff from a GM. And they're just MVP.
Pete Carroll, a sleeper, says CPU GC. Totally.
Dude, I'm buying Raiders. Maybe not necessarily
totally
playoffs, but I'm buying a big turnaround for the Raiders. All right, MVP. Who we got?
Joseph Burrow, who I thought played MVP caliber football last year, but unfortunately it's a team game and didn't get, we're not going to give the MVP to a guy who didn't make the playoffs. So Joe Burrow can't get it. But if you watch Joe Burrow, he's an MVP.
Yeah. And it felt like last year with the Josh Allen that they're trying to give it to kind of that top group. I think everyone knows the top group at this point. Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Burrow. That they were just they're going to try to spread it around and give everyone in that top group one. And so if Joe Burrow just replicates what he did last year, basically, but the defense doesn't play like dog shit.
If Evan McPherson can make a couple kicks.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's winning MVP. There you have it. There's our awards. And our playoff predictions. We'll be back next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, keep pushing.